My name is Evelyn Carter, and for most of my life, I believed love could survive anything if you protected it hard enough. Turns out love can survive poverty. It can survive exhaustion. It can survive years of sacrifice and loneliness. But sometimes, love doesn't survive manipulation. And sometimes the people you protect the most become the very people you need protection from. I learned that lesson at 58 years old, standing barefoot in my kitchen while my daughter's husband tried to steal my future with a smile on his face. The strange part is, if Harold Trask hadn't died when he did, I probably never would have seen any of it clearly. The letter arrived on a Thursday afternoon. I remember because Camille had been spinning around my living room in her wedding dress all morning, asking me every 10 minutes if the hem looked uneven. The envelope itself looked expensive. Cream-colored paper, gold-embossed corners, a return address from Reno, Nevada. The second I saw Harold's name, my chest tightened. Harold Trask. I hadn't spoken that name out loud in more than 3 decades. Not since I left Nevada carrying a baby on my hip and exactly $82 in my purse. Camille called from the hallway. "Mom, seriously, if this zipper breaks, I'm canceling the wedding." I smiled automatically. "Hold still," I called back. But my hands were already trembling. I opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a formal letter from Harold's estate attorney. The first sentence nearly stopped my heart. "Mr. Harold Trask has named you sole beneficiary of his estate." I reread it 3 times before the words even felt real. Then I reached the number. 3.2 million. Land, stocks, mineral rights, oil contracts tied to a pipeline acquisition. Enough money to completely change someone's life. Enough money to destroy one too. But it wasn't the amount that frightened me. It was the final paragraph. "Do not disclose this inheritance to any family members or associates for 6 months. Harold insisted on this condition specifically for your protection." For your protection. Harold had always been careful with words. If he wrote that sentence, he had a reason. I folded the letter immediately and slid it beneath the bread tin on the counter, just as Camille walked in wearing ivory silk and excitement. "Zip me up," she grinned. I stared at her reflection in the mirror while fastening the dress. She looked beautiful, still my little girl somehow, but different too. Older, sharper, less trusting of softness. Marriage changes people before the vows even happen sometimes. "Mom?" I blinked. "You okay?" "Just emotional," I lied. That night after she left for her bridal suite, I sat alone in the kitchen rereading Harold's letter by candlelight. And for the first time in years, I felt afraid of my own family. Not Camille. Not yet. Dean Bennett. Her fiancé? A high school history teacher with polished shoes, careful manners, and eyes that calculated too much while pretending not to notice anything. People loved Dean instantly. That was part of what bothered me. Men who are genuine rarely work that hard to appear harmless. The wedding happened 3 days later. Perfect weather, perfect flowers, perfect photographs. Camille looked radiant walking down the aisle. Dean looked victorious. That was the word I couldn't stop thinking about while watching him smile during the ceremony. Victorious, like he had acquired something valuable. At the reception, he kept one hand resting possessively on Camille's waist all night. Not lovingly, ownership-like, subtle enough that nobody else noticed. But mothers notice things, especially mothers who spent years surviving men who smiled while hiding sharp intentions underneath. I stayed quiet, smiled for pictures, made toasts, danced once with Camille. Nobody suspected anything was wrong. 3 weeks later, Dean invited me to dinner. Their condo smelled like expensive candles and fresh paint. Everything looked curated. Dean cooked sea bass and risotto while Camille poured wine. At first, the evening felt normal. Then Dean leaned back casually and said, "So now that we're officially family, we should probably talk about future planning." My stomach tightened immediately. Camille laughed. "Oh God, Dean's in budgeting mode again." Dean smiled at me. "I just think families should protect each other financially." There it was. Not direct enough to challenge, not vague enough to misunderstand. Testing. I kept my voice light. "I think I'm doing all right." He nodded slowly. "Of course. Camille says you've always been smart with money." Camille looked proud while saying it. That hurt more than anything, because she trusted him completely, and trust is dangerous when placed in the wrong hands. Dean poured more wine. If you ever want help managing assets or creating trusts, I'd be happy to assist. Assist. Such an innocent word. Predators love innocent words. I smiled politely. That's kind but unnecessary. For 1 second, just one, his expression changed. Tiny flicker. Cold irritation. Gone instantly. But I saw it. That night I barely slept. Not because of the inheritance. Because Harold's warning suddenly made sense. He wasn't protecting money. He was protecting me from what money reveals in people. A month later, Camille showed up at my house carrying coffee and a manila folder. I knew before she even sat down. It's just paperwork, she said too quickly. Dean thinks it would help simplify taxes if we organize future estate planning early. I stared at the folder without touching it. Did you read it? She hesitated. He explained it. That's not what I asked. Her smile disappeared. Why are you acting weird about this? Because I had seen this exact story before. Years earlier, I worked reception at a divorce law office. Women came in crying every week after signing documents husbands called harmless. Temporary, practical, smart, words that cost them everything. I slid the folder back toward her unopened. If you bring me legal paperwork again without independent review, you won't be welcome here. Her face hardened immediately. Dean's trying to help you. No, I said quietly. He's trying to access me. The silence after that sentence felt enormous. She stood abruptly. You don't trust anybody. That's not true. Then why treat him like a criminal? Because criminals rarely announce themselves. But I didn't say that. She left angry. And for the first time in my life, my daughter didn't hug me goodbye. That broke something inside me. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just quietly enough that I felt it settling into permanent grief. 5 days later, I sat outside their condo in my car after unsuccessfully trying to return her calls. I watched through partially open blinds while Dean paced across the kitchen talking aggressively. Camille dropped a plate. He snapped something at her sharply. She flinched. I felt physically sick, because fear changes posture before it changes anything else. The next morning, my bank alerted me that someone attempted to access a dormant retirement account connected to my old records. The request traced back to Dean's school district network. That was the moment suspicion ended. He wasn't curious. He was hunting, and my daughter was unknowingly helping him. I didn't panic. I prepared. I created a fake financial document showing a modest inheritance, $450,000, believable enough to tempt him, small enough not to trigger caution. Then I left my laptop open during their next visit. Dean offered to help set the table. When he returned, the keyboard was warm. 3 hours later, Camille called. You lied to me. I closed my eyes slowly. About what? The inheritance. So he took the bait. I listened while she repeated Dean's accusations. That I was testing them, that I was hiding wealth, that secrecy meant manipulation. Every sentence sounded like his voice wearing her mouth. Then came the part that shattered me. Dean thinks maybe we need space from you. Space. From the woman who raised her alone. Worked double shifts, skipped meals, sold jewelry to pay tuition deposits. Space. I dropped the dish in my sink so hard it cracked. I trusted you with my entire life, I whispered. She didn't answer. That silence hurt more than screaming ever could. The following morning, a notary office informed me Dean attempted to add himself as financial proxy to one of my legal records. Without permission, without consent. That was the moment I stopped trying to preserve peace. Peace without boundaries is surrender, and I was done surrendering. I reopened Harold's letter and reread the warning one final time. Then I decided to burn everything down carefully, not emotionally, strategically. People like Dean believe they're smarter than everyone else, which makes them careless eventually. I started collecting evidence, email traces, bank access attempts, metadata, call records. Then I found the wedding video clip, hidden inside behind-the-scenes footage. Dean standing on a balcony with 2 groomsmen holding bourbon glasses. One friend laughed. So you married rich? Dean smirked. She thinks it's love, but the real jackpot's her mom. Then he raised his glass and said the sentence that destroyed his entire life. Watch me crack the vault. I stared at the paused frame for nearly an hour. Not because I was shocked, because Camille married a man who viewed our family like a financial target. And because somewhere deep down, I think I already knew it. I sent everything to Olivia Mercer, Harold's former attorney. Within 48 hours, we had a legal strategy. Cease and desist notices, digital forensic reports, fraud documentation. Then I called Camille. Come alone. She arrived pale and exhausted. I handed her the evidence one piece at a time. At first, she defended him automatically. It's a joke. Then she saw the banking attempts, the forged authorization request, the timestamps, the metadata. Her hands started shaking. Finally, I played the balcony video. She watched silently. No tears, no denial, just devastation. When the video ended, she whispered, "What do I do?" And for the first time in months, I saw my daughter again, instead of Dean's influence speaking through her. I answered softly. You choose yourself. 3 days later, we sat across from Dean in a lawyer's office. Camille looked completely different, still heartbroken, but awake. Olivia placed the evidence folder in front of him calmly. Camille spoke first. You will sign the annulment. Dean laughed nervously. You can't be serious. You attempted financial fraud, Olivia interrupted, and we have proof. His confidence cracked instantly. What do you want? Camille's voice never shook. You walk away permanently. He looked at her like he genuinely believed she'd cave eventually. That was the saddest part. Men like Dean mistake love for weakness. He signed everything within 20 minutes. No apology, no remorse, only anger at losing access. When the office door finally closed behind him, Camille broke down completely. Not because she lost him, because she realized how thoroughly she had abandoned herself trying to protect someone who never truly loved her. Weeks passed quietly after that. Slow healing, careful conversations, long silences that no longer felt hostile. One Sunday, she helped me fold laundry in the kitchen. Then suddenly she asked, The inheritance was the $450,000 fake? I smiled slightly. What do you think? She stared at me for a long moment. Then she laughed softly through tears. You trapped him. No, I corrected gently. He trapped himself. That night I finally took her to Nevada, to Harold's land. The desert stretched endlessly beneath orange evening light while oil rigs hummed quietly in the distance. Camille stood beside me silently. This is where everything came from? She whispered. I nodded. Harold saved my life once. Then I handed her the real estate documents. Not because she expected them, because she had earned trust back the hardest way possible, by choosing truth over comfort. Tears filled her eyes immediately. I don't deserve this. I touched her hand gently. This was never about money. She looked at me. Then I finally told her the truth I'd spent months holding inside. The real inheritance wasn't Harold's fortune. What was it? The chance to see who people truly are before it was too late. That night we sat on the porch listening to old jazz records while desert wind moved softly through the dark. And for the first time in years, I felt peace settle inside me again. Not because I protected the money, because I finally protected us.